On a crisp morning in March 1947, the New York City Police received a phone call that would lead to the most bizarre investigation in the city's history. The caller, who refused to give their name, whispered a single, chilling sentence: "There is a dead man in the house on Fifth Avenue." The house was number 2078 Fifth Avenue. It was a crumbling mansion that had stood silent for decades. The windows were shattered and boarded up. The front stoop was covered in debris. For years, the neighbors had whispered that the house was cursed or that it was empty. But when the police arrived and tried to breach the front door, they hit a solid wall. Not a wall of wood or stone, but a wall of stuff. The police couldn't get in. The doors were blocked from the inside by floor-to-ceiling barricades of junk. They had to use ladders to break through the second-story windows, but even then, they couldn't step inside. The room was filled solidly with bundles of old newspapers, broken furniture, and rusting metal. They had to crawl over the trash like explorers in a cave, and as they crawled into the darkness, the smell hit them. The smell of decay, the smell of a life gone wrong. To understand the horror of what was found inside, we must understand who lived there. These weren't criminals or monsters, they were gentlemen. Homer and Langley Collyer were born into high society. Their father was a respected gynecologist, their mother an opera singer. Homer was a brilliant lawyer. Langley was a talented engineer and concert pianist. They were the envy of Harlem. But in the 1920s, something broke. Their parents passed away, and the two brothers retreated into the mansion. They locked the doors and pulled the shades. The neighborhood around them changed, becoming poor and crowded, and the brothers became paranoid. They believed the outside world was dangerous. They believed people were out to steal their family fortune, and so they stopped going out. Homer, the older brother, went blind. Then he was struck by rheumatism, leaving him paralyzed. He could not leave his chair. Langley, the younger brother, devoted his life to caring for him. But Langley's mind was unraveling. He believed that if he could just keep the world out, they would be safe. He began to hoard. He collected everything he saw: newspapers, oranges, car parts, pianos. He brought it all inside, filling the rooms, the hallways, and the stairs, until the mansion became a labyrinth. For 20 years, they lived in total isolation. The utilities were cut off. They had no gas, no electricity, no water. Langley fetched water from a park fountain at night. He cooked on a small kerosene stove, but his paranoia grew darker. He was terrified of burglars. So, the engineer began to build defenses. Langley turned the house into a death trap. He constructed intricate tunnels through the tons of garbage. He rigged booby-traps intended to crush intruders. If you stepped on the wrong wire, 100 pounds of newspapers or a heavy iron grate would fall from the ceiling. He created a fortress of trash to protect his blind, paralyzed brother. Rumors swirled in the neighborhood. Children threw rocks at the windows. People said the brothers had millions of dollars hidden in the walls. They said they ate rats. They said they were hiding bodies. The neighbors had no idea how close to the truth they were. The brothers weren't just hiding from the world. They were being consumed by it. Back in 1947, the police patrolman finally made it into the second-floor sitting room. After hours of digging through the debris, his flashlight beam landed on a figure. Sitting in an alcove, surrounded by mountains of paper, was Homer Collyer. Homer was dead. He had passed away from starvation and heart failure. He was sitting in his chair, head bowed. But where was Langley? The police assumed the younger brother had finally snapped, left his brother to die, and fled the city. A massive manhunt was launched. They searched Atlantic City. They searched upstate New York. Sightings of Langley were reported all over the country. Meanwhile, the police continued to clear the house. It was a monumental task. They removed 140 tons of debris. They found 14 pianos. They found a Model T Ford chassis in the living room. They found human organs in jars, remnants of their father's medical practice. But they could not find Langley. For 3 weeks, workers cleared the house, room by room, looking for clues. On April 8th, 3 weeks after the first body was found, a workman was clearing a tunnel of junk just 10 feet away from where Homer had died. He pulled at a suitcase, and the pile shifted. Underneath a mountain of newspapers and metal bed springs, they saw a foot. It was Langley. He hadn't fled. He hadn't abandoned his brother. He had been there the entire time. The police reconstructed the scene. Langley had been crawling through one of his own tunnels to bring food to his paralyzed brother. But as he crawled, his foot snagged on a tripwire, one of the very traps he had built to keep intruders out. The tunnel collapsed on him, crushing him instantly. He died just feet away from the brother he had spent his life trying to protect. Homer, blind and paralyzed, would have heard the crash. He would have waited in the darkness for Langley to come, but Langley never came. Homer eventually died of starvation, alone in the silence, just a few yards from his brother's body. The house was deemed structurally unsafe and was razed to the ground. Today, the site is a small public park in Harlem, but the story of the Collyer brothers remains a cautionary tale of how fear can build walls until the walls fall in on you. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as fascinating and unsettling as we did, please subscribe for more journeys into the strange and forgotten corners of history.